Here. Welcome to the January webinar of the DEI Leader Network. I'm Elizabeth Kerwin from Diversity Works, and it's such a pleasure to have you all with us today. We're very excited about today's topic. Just a few admin notes. Because of the large number of people we're expecting on the webinar, we've muted participants' audio lines, but we do welcome questions and comments at any time during the presentations. So please use the chat feature or raise your hand on the Zoom button, and we'll do our best to accommodate. We will definitely have time at the end of the discussion, at the end of the webinar. So if you'd like to save your questions and comments to the end, feel free to do that. So today's topic is community engagement and charitable giving, and we are joined by the fabulous Tysus Jackson, who I'll introduce in just a moment. So we have, before I introduce Tysus more properly, I wanted to just introduce you quickly to Diversity Works. We're a woman-owned company that evaluates organizations' DEI performance, and we use a rigorous data-driven approach to do that. We believe that effective DEI strategies are grounded in business drivers, and that when your DEI strategy is aligned with your business strategy, you'll make gains on both. So our approach really seeks to understand the organization so that we can build DEI in at a strategic level and help ensure that it's sustainable for long-term success. So today's topic is community engagement and charitable giving, which fits into the community, philanthropy, and sustainability box of our evaluation framework highlighted there at the bottom. However, we don't think that topic is isolated in that box. We think that community engagement and charitable giving help reinforce your vision and values as an organization. It really shows that you walk the walk as well as talk the talk. And it's also an opportunity to engage your employees, whether that's through volunteerism or donation matching or something similar to that. So while this is a topic that is part of, community philanthropy and sustainability, we really do see it as connected to other aspects of our evaluation framework. So our speaker today is our great friend and superstar, Tysus Jackson. She is the Conscious Giver in Chief at Conscious Giving, and she created that organization to empower people to give with intent and for impact. She works with organizations and individuals to create social profit in communities around the world. Tysus is a fundraiser, a social profit coach and speaker, and host of the Conscious Giver podcast. And we're really thrilled to have her with us today. And so with that, I am going to put Tysus in the spotlight and turn things over to her.
Well, great. It's so great to be here. So thank you so much, Elizabeth. I was so happy that you and Holly invited me to be a part of this webinar program and to really help to make the distinction between DEI and charitable giving and how they can both align together. So I will give a disclaimer, like many of you all, the internet is it has been acting a little odd. So just in case there is a pause, will pause in speaking to let my internet catch up with me. So sometimes that's how it goes. Just can't keep up with the technology, can't keep up with people. And sometimes I feel like I can't keep up with the technology. So great. But thank you again, Diversity Works. Diversity Works. You all are doing amazing work, and I am, so happy to align and partner with you both. So today we're going to be talking about aligning our DEI work. And sorry, I'm having it's kind of moving a little oddly. So we're going to talk about aligning our diversity work. So first, you're probably wondering, what is conscious giving? Conscious giving is giving with intent for impact. And then I want to talk about, well, how does conscious giving work? So conscious giving brings together an ecosystem of partners across multiple sectors with the intention to collectively use our resources to make a profound impact. That's our work. And this is all based in a couple of things, in our principles and our approach. And today we'll be talking a lot about the principles, which are three, which is operate with intention, create impact, and create transformational change. And then we talk about in our conscious giving is sort of the meaty part, and that's our approach. And there's 5 aspects to that approach. One is our ecosystem of innovators, because in conscious giving, we think differently. And so we invite people in to partner with us with that same thought span. We have big work to do. We have a lot of change to make, and we cannot operate in the same type of way. So we're thinking big and we're thinking innovatively. We are reaching for transformational impact. So conscious giving works with intention to create that. And we're also a community of givers. We are a community of givers and not consumers, which is really important, because operating as a community of givers allows us to employ strategies and methodologies that translate to real value and growth. We also are bold in our approaches. That conscious giving takes calculated, bold approaches, but they're important work. Like, we're doing important work. And so we are taking our passion and allowing it to be fueled and have it be rooted in science in all of these bold approaches. And then lastly is our anti-racist values. For those who have been in the philanthropy world or fundraising for many years, you understand that there is this still this thought that exists that, white cis baby boomer men are the ideal donor or board member. And that's just simply racist and outdated. So with conscious giving, we don't other anyone. We bring everyone in as a community. We believe that everyone has something to contribute, something to give, and we respect and value it all. So with conscious giving, I also created Conscious Giving Fund because I thought it was really important to, one is there was lots of ideas and a lot of work to do, but I wanted to really be able to help conscious givers, and it started with individuals to make a difference. And so we started 3 years ago with the Conscious Giving Guide, and the Giving Guide connects conscious givers with high impact needs and nonprofits and social impact projects to make a difference. We do all of our financial giving in a giving circle because we are a community of givers, and we are aiming to give to nonprofits and social impact entrepreneurs. And then lastly, we in Conscious Giving Fund, we are educating and learning together. And that's done through the Conscious Giver podcast and then the Conscious Giving channel on YouTube. So if you don't know, we this year for our giving guide, our focus was on rural healthcare and health disparity to 3 amazing organizations that are working the space that was featured in the Conscious Giving Guide. So I see it's telling me my cable is a little, okay, I think we're okay. It's a little unstable, so I want to make sure that you can hear all the points I'm making today. So as we move into this presentation part and thinking about conscious giving that you can do as an individual or in your organization, we start with thinking about building a mission. And I started with a quote from Maya Angelou that you're probably really familiar. If not, it's a wonderful quote. And it starts with this: I've learned that people will forget what you said, and I hope you don't forget what I say today, but it happens. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And that is so important because as we're thinking about DEI work and the alignment with charitable giving, really there's a timeline of when this all happened. And in this timeline, I've started, and this is not necessarily comprehensive. Let me give that disclaimer, but some key points that I wanted to make. But and how we felt in that change in that movement. A lot of that began with the murder of Trayvon Martin in 2012. Many African Americans really started to feel well, what was happening, started to change how they looked at their young sons, didn't permit them to wear hoodies. It just really started to feel different. And in 2014, there was a lot of things that happened, as you can see in 2014. But two things that I want to point out in 2014, the movement. So 2014, there was a number of things that happened. One is the hashtag Black Lives Matter became a movement. And then my personal point on this timeline happened with the murder of Tamir Rice. You may remember Tamir. Tamir was a 12-year-old boy in Cleveland, Ohio, playing at a park with a toy gun, and police shot and killed him. And this, there's two reasons why this means so much to me. One is that I work with pediatricians. And during that time, I was working with some leading experts on gun violence. And we, when this happened, they didn't have any answers. And it was really hard for them to work through of how do they tell their patient families, how do they talk about it with their patients, because there weren't any answers to give. And then personally, Tamir Rice has a special meaning for me because since I was a child, we have always just celebrated my birthday in a great way. And partially it could be because of me. I would say that every 6 months I got a lot of gifts, which are very important as a child. And so, December 25th and then June 25th. And my birthday is June 25th. And even though I don't get so many gifts anymore, it's still a special day for me. And Tamir Rice and I share the same birthday, June 25th. And so every birthday, I think about Tamir, and I think about his mother, and I think about all of his hopes and dreams that passed. And I challenge myself, what could I do better? How can I make a difference in this world? And so that is the way that we really have to start thinking about these moments and start to feel them and let it fuel us. So I wanted to highlight some other points because this might resonate with you. In 2016, September 1st, 2016, Colin Kaepernick, along with his colleague, Eric Reed, took a knee for a first time. And Colin pledged $1 million to community groups. So I also don't want that to be lost. Many people forget that aspect. And then as we move through the timeline, we also understand that 2020 was really the catalyst for so much and why we're here today. We start first in February of 2020, right when COVID was beginning and we were all home. Ahmaud Arbery in Brunswick, Georgia, was out for a run and he was murdered. And not even a month later, Breonna Taylor was sleeping in her bed and she was murdered. And then George Floyd was murdered a few months later. And we saw the summer that changed us and erupted in a very profound way. And we'll talk about that a little bit more of some of the outcomes for our corporate and individual giving. So thinking about this moment of the time timeline and a moment that resonated with you, I want you to imagine a conscious giving world. I want you to think about how you as an individual or your organization can be intentional in your work. And when you are intentional, what's the impact that you're going to make? What's the community that is around you in that work? And so it all begins with our creating our intention. So let's first walk through and think about how we can create our intentions, because ideas won't work unless you do. So our ideas and our intention are sort of centered in this connecting our ways of giving. First, thinking about time. Since 2017, we've really started to see a decline in volunteerism in this country. And 2020 really turned that around. Twice as many people began to volunteer. Even in COVID, people started to make the decision that it was important to give back with their time. And then we also have started to see a transition in our talent in our workplaces. And with two generations, 64% of millennials won't take a job if the potential employer doesn't have a strong corporate social responsibility practice. And, those Gen Z, 85% of Gen Z employees believe companies have an obligation to help social problems. So when we think about the great resignation, we know that it's really not a resignation, it's a new labor movement. And it's really changing by the 30% of the workforce of millennials and Gen Z who make up 30% of our workforce. And I would say, as not in those generations, they have certainly have influenced other generations. And then lastly, when we look at our giving, we also know that there was a high level of charitable giving that went to racial justice beginning in 2020. In fact, it was $11.9 million that was pledged to charitable giving. Candid was able to trace about $1.5 billion that has actually been giving. So we understand the intent and what's happening, and in pledging to racial justice. It's just the transition of actually making it happen is the challenge. And so as we think about our now we have that piece done, but as we think about building our intentions, there are conscious giving traits that I want to work through, because people don't buy what you do, but why you do it. So the first C of the three C's, as I call our conscious traits, is collective liberation. The intention is to change systems. I have a couple examples for you. One is thinking about the NAACP Legal Defense Fund and the impact that they made with the Brown versus Board of Education in Topeka, Kansas. Their talented lawyers use their talent, right, their gifts as an attorney to desegregate public schools. And think about it in this sense. My parents were educated in segregated schools. My sister and I are the first generation to be educated in desegregated schools. A really profound impact. And then also, another example is Dan Price. He's the CEO of Gravity, and he advocates for workers to have living wages. And so in his company, he set a minimum living wage for all employees. And they have seen amazing outcomes from that. And so he really advocates and encourages other CEOs to make that change and to start thinking about how about living wages in this country. The next C is community empowerment. And the intention of a community empowerment is to bring together individuals around a common cause. One example is Fair Fight, founded by Stacey Abrams. Fair Fight, their work is to bring awareness to the public on election reform, advocate for election reform on all levels of government, and to engage voter in the voter education and communications. Intent really translate well in these past elections in Georgia, where we saw, despite voter suppression, we saw some of the highest levels of voter turnout, which is really a testament to democracy and process. And then the other example is Dove and the Crown Coalition. Dove partnered with the Crown Coalition to drive change to end race-based hair discrimination with the Crown. And we're going to talk a little bit more in our framework about Dove and the Crown Coalition, but this was two organizations that came together, one for-profit, one a coalition nonprofit, to come together and to be able to be around one intention. And we'll talk about the impact that they're making a little later. And then our last C is change agent. That's the intention to cause large scale change. And if you are in the space of AIDS research, you know about AMFAR, and you know the investments that they have been making in groundbreaking research in order to find a cure for AIDS. And then lastly, our last example is Patagonia, which is has an amazing business model. They are really put together. They are a business that is really about inspiring and implementing solutions to end the environmental crisis. In fact, they give 1% of all their sales to preserve the natural environment. Additionally, as you see at the heart of their work is giving. They were one of the first corporations in 2020 to pledge $1 million and to pay $1 million to racial justice. And they did a phenomenal job with encouraging other corporations to do the same. So now that we have our ideas, we have our framework for it, our intention and how to create our intention. Now we're going to transition to thinking about impact. Booker T. Washington says success is not measured not so much by the position that one has reached in life as by the obstacles which one has overcome while trying to succeed. So we have the I3 framework when we think about impact. And so we're going to circle back around to Dove and the Crown Coalition to talk about this. We have 3 different I's: intention, influence, and impact. So first we have to think about how we create our intention. And so when you think about Dove and the Crown Coalition, they both had the intention to end race-based hair discrimination. And when you think about influence, it's how will you make that impact, the time, talent, and treasure. Well, you had 2 organizations with a wealth of gifts, and they both had it in different spaces. Dove is a multinational corporation based in the UK, and so they really lent their brand and marketing to raise the awareness in a global level, not just here in the United States, but also globally, about race-based hair discrimination. And then the Crown Coalition had were advocates for this work. So in this work, they decided the impact that they wanted to make was to implement the Crown Act in all 50 states. So that's how they set their measurement. Their measurements is all 50 states, this legislation. And so far, they've actually reached 7 states. So when you think about how you can create your intention, influence, and impact, it may not be one C that you're looking at. It might be all 3 C's. And so please consider that as you're building out your intention, that you may want to be a change agent. You might want to have collective liberation and community empowerment all wrapped up in one, but you don't have to be limited to just one way to getting the work done. So I want to end with one of my favorite individuals. I am a native of Indiana, a native Hoosier, and my whole life I've known about Madam C.J. Walker. And she was always a point of pride to me as an African-American woman. She was the first self-made woman millionaire and a philanthropist. And she said, don't sit down and wait for the opportunities to come. Get up and make them. So today, I want to say to you, if it's you as an individual or in your organizations, it's really time for us to make change. I think that this is not only the time to do it, but we can all be conscious givers in our work. So start with building your intention, and then let's go make an impact. And if you would like to join us in conscious giving and some of the work that we're doing, you can reach me with our traditional ways, website and email. I'm also on a number of digital platforms. And so you can also reach me there. Our giving guide this year is available. And through the end of this month, and I told you it was about health disparities and rural health. And now we're starting something new called Giving Intentions. And that will begin in February during Black History Month. And we will highlight 3 organizations that have been, that are Black led and doing great work for us as a conscious giving community to give to. So please stay connected. And I'd love to learn more about the work that you're doing in your organizations, and then hopefully ways that you are looking to implement conscious giving strategies.
Great. We have a question here, Tysus. How do you promote or amplify your work? Is there value in that? So
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
The question is about media too, media attention. How do you get the press coverage?
So I think that that's always the piece and always the struggle is in a very noisy world is to be able to build a message. But one thing I will say is that, working in, conscious giving, this came from being a fundraiser for 20 years. I know it may not look like it, but I've been doing this work for like 20 years. And when I started, I have someone here that was in the room. When I began at Virginia Tech, there was really a cry for, let me begin. I started at Virginia Tech. My first position there was multicultural affairs. You might remember that language, which is essentially was diversity work. And I was fundraising for that area for the university. And there was a really a significant change that happened with our race-based scholarships. And one day I have to tell the whole story about how it happened. But I really had to really go from an authentic place to do this work and engage alumni in a very profound way. And that's when I started to, without knowing it, start to create conscious giving. So I definitely am always looking for exposures because I feel like my life's purpose is to create more conscious givers.
Great. I'm sorry. Christopher was going to come off camera and ask and just have a quick conversation with you about it. Anybody that's interested in having a chat. And then we've got 2 more questions behind him.
Okay. Great.
Thanks, Tysus. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
I thought it was really interesting. And as I'm watching this and looking at these slides, you're right. It's really hard to get exposure. We live in a 24/7 media world that really accentuates the negative and the controversial. But I do wonder, though, in different ways, and I don't know what kind of robust media program you have or whatever. If there's a way, I look at the news cycle and there are these glimmers of telling good stories and good work. For instance, the Philadelphia Inquirer, they have a whole they have a whole vertical dedicated to good work in the community. And I know a number of media outlets do that, but I'm just curious, like, as you responded to that, are you guys pushing out good content to show the world the good work you're doing and what you're involved in and why it matters? Because there are media verticals and dedication to some of these bright spots in the news cycle.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. And I wasn't trying to be long-winded, but, just to underscore the point that, this is in the space of building my career. It was a really big challenge, and it really allowed me to dig down and to say, what type of fundraising did I plan to do? Was I just going to go out and just try to get money? We're in $1 billion campaign and we have to raise the money. And it was really about doing conscious giving and educating my donors and building those relationships so that they can make an impact regardless of the amount of money they were giving or the time that they were giving. And so I say all that to say that this is my life work. And so I'm digging in, and you're right. I think that there is a lot more to put forward and to share and to evangelize in the good way. Can
I just end on this one note? I'm sorry to take up so much time, but I think this is really fascinating. When you talk about donors, one of the best way to get people invested is to show that you're out there and you're getting credit. And it's, when I tell clients, like, put those media clips in that donor recruitment packet. They need to see that you're in the Washington Post or the New York Times or They need to see that so they know what they're investing in as a credible, valuable, and worthwhile organization. But I really find this very interesting. At some point, we should chat offline about some of the stuff that you're doing, because I think it's really cool.
Kim wants to know how you work with an individual or corporation to design their plan. And one of the best comments in preparation for this meeting, I was talking to a friend of mine, and she said, sometimes we need permission to say no. But can you talk about how you work with companies to develop that conscious giving plan and what that work looks like?
Yeah, thanks so much, Kimberly. So actually next month, we're going to start with the giving intentions, and it allows you to sort of create as an individual to create your plan and how you're giving, and to be intentional with it, and Holly kind of interweaving those two questions together, and one with a client about how do you say no. I think that's the biggest challenge of it all, is that there's so much good work happening. And so that's why I started with the timeline, to understand, like, you still have to feel, and passion really fuels the work. So you have to tap into that passion to really start to set your intention. And once you set, it's much easier to say no, because if you remember the I3 framework, you have your intention, how you're going to influence in order to make an impact, and you have those metrics. Yep. So just like with Dove and the Crown Coalition, if someone said, hey, we want to, I'm trying to think, if, ask something different in terms of, we want to plant more trees, they will easily say no, because it's not in their intention. Right. Is to end race-based hair discrimination. But Patagonia would be great for that type of work.
Right. You and I talked offline about this, was this idea that once you've established your criteria, you can even publish it and say, these are the types of, contributions we make, so that it's clear, it's transparent, which is obviously a big part of diversity, equity, inclusion, is to be transparent about your intention. Are there examples of successful metrics that you would recommend to those who are just starting out? And that is from Tish Talley. Thanks, Tish.
Tish, I think that's a really good question. You actually saw some of the work that Diversity Works and how they do their metrics, and the categories that they have. So if you were adding that to your big DEI group, you could look and see how they all align together. I think in the terms of conscious giving and building out your charitable giving piece, and you think about the metrics, it's still going back to those frameworks and being very intentional about your work and what type of impact you want to make. So this kind of helps me to tie in that Booker T. Washington quote. So, you know, everyone's not going to be a Patagonia. They're not going to give, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars to the environment. But you doesn't preclude you from being a part of that cause, and you can be in a very different space and to do your work. And so you set those metrics in order to have the starting point of where you're at, and then what type you want to make. And so, you know, when I'm working with clients, I actually think about that in a very individual way, because I don't think it's quite one size fits all. So we kind of go through the process of thinking about the frameworks, and then we're able to create those unique metrics that gets to what your community, which it may, you know, what that community of stakeholders looks like is varies for each organization, but look at that community of stakeholders, and then you're able to say, this is the impact we want to make. This is our stretch. This is where we can begin, and then it helps you to feel really good about your work, and just, you know, at the end of the day, we're all striving to make an impact, and that's the most important thing.
I think that's right. And we've got another person here, Ken Granderson, who would like to introduce himself to you and to the group. So Ken, if you want to come off mute and come on camera. He runs an organization called blackfacts.com, and they have a library of, I believe it was 700 Black history videos that companies can put on their website.
Yeah. Hi, thank you.
Hi, Ken. There you are.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Thanks. That was so nice of you to invite me. Yeah. Well, Black Facts is actually we're celebrating 25 years of doing Black history. We're the first site of its kind, and basically, the link that I just pasted is our diversity website widgets page, where with 2 lines of web code, we can, any folks who want any of our videos, including we have a dozen different series. I won't go through all of them, but our Black Facts Minute that has a 1-minute video for every day of the year, a Black history event, can show up on their websites. And so,
I love it. About what advice would you give fundraisers to charities looking to tap into the conscious giving mindset? You know, when you and I met and you were at Children's National Medical Center, they had the Dr. Bear Day, which allowed companies that were interested in being involved with Children's National Medical Center could come for the day and tour, which really was a great day for the employees attending, but also a great way for the organization to endear themselves to that company.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Holly. My mind will rush with so many ideas on this one. But first, I want to say thanks to Ken and sharing about the work that he's doing, because one is as a college student and in charge of we called it Sisters in Nefertiti, my all-women's college. You know, Black History Month, I really leaned on historians and to educate during Black History Month. And I know that so many students and individuals really appreciate the work that you're doing. And also it was very clear, you said 25 years, and this is definitely passion. And I'd love to see that passion move forward in a way of conscious giving. So thank you so much for that, Ken, and being a part of the call today. You know, just for my fellow fundraisers that are on the call today, I think that, you know, I actually always started with my own personal mission statement. So there were organizations that I just said didn't work for me. It didn't align with my personal mission statement, or even within the organization. You know, it was also, you know, there was multiple areas to give to and functions to fundraise for, and I stayed on my mission statement. And so that's one of the places I always tell people to start with fundraising, because you can't you can't be, in order to be effective, it's always going to be more than a job. It's going to be something that, you know, being authentic and doing it from a place of conscious giving, you really have to start with that alignment. But I think that, you know, one thing that I'll really speak to is for individuals who are fundraising in organizations that aren't, you know, doing those big, I mean, UNC just closed a $4.5 billion campaign. You know, I've been in $1 billion campaigns, you know, $100 million gifts from one organization. And, you know, I have to tell you, it's a different life compared to people who are in shops where there's just one fundraiser or the executive director is the fundraiser. And I always say, stay mission focused. There's, you know, stay on your mission, and be able to tell your story. And you won't be able to do like Holly was engaged with a Dr. Beer University right away, but you will be able to engage people in profound ways if you stay true to your mission and share your story.
Well, with that, Tysus, thank you so much. I hope that everybody has been totally inspired to become conscious givers in 2022, if you weren't already, and everyone's got wheels turning, thinking about how they're going to put all this great information into motion. So thank you so much, Tysus. We really, really appreciate your valuable insights and time today. You know, on the slide here, you know, just a note that we are putting together a special panel discussion on Black History Month for next month's webinar. We're going to be talking about the Black experience in American workplaces and how employers rather, can put anti-racist intentions into practice. So we hope that you will be joining us for that one. And in the meantime, do connect with us on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and on Twitter. And thanks again for joining us today. We really do appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.